Hey guys, today we're going to be discussing this incredible book, These Fist Break Bricks, and it's coming right up. Hey guys, Charles Damiano here from the Bruce Lee collection, and we have another exciting episode lined up for you guys today. Today we're going to have a panel discussion on the book, These Fists Break Bricks, which just came out, and I'm here with co-author Chris Poggiali. We have Frankie Balboa from Times Square Kung Fu, and Hector Martinez, historian, Bruce Lee collector, Brandon Lee collector, and the list goes on and on. So we're going to have some fun here today. So I'm excited to have you here today, Chris, because I know you're the co-author of this exciting book. You wrote most of the book, and I know the first time I met you, we were at the Forbidden Planet, where you kind of launched the book signing, and Hector was there, and myself. I don't think you made that, Frankie, right?
I haven't been to Forbidden Planet in years.
Oh
my God.
And there was a huge book signing. We actually did an episode on that, and for those of you who missed that, I'll include a link up above so you can catch that episode. It was a lot of fun, and that's where I met you for the first time.
That's right.
And we also had Grady Hendrix there also, right?
Grady.
He was the other author on this this revolutionary book here. I love it. I love it. So why don't we start with, for the fans who don't know you, just telling us a little bit about you, a little bio on yourself, and then we'll kind of get into how the book was inspired.
Sure. Okay. Well, I got into the writing of movies and articles as through horror movies. Really.
Oh wow!
There are so many magazines, and the fan base for horror is so immense that just seemed to be the easiest way to go into it. And just like a lot of filmmakers become filmmakers by making horror movies, that was my entree. So I wrote for Fangoria.
I remember that magazine. Yeah.
Blue Morgue, Deep Red. On and on, Horror Hound, all the major horror movie magazines. And I'm a collector of movie posters. Oh,
you are?
So,
okay.
Yeah, and so a lot of the posters, most of the posters in the book are mine.
Wow.
And I had been thinking about doing a book on martial arts movies for a while, and I just wasn't sure of like the approach to take. Because a lot of times I would think, well, I don't know anybody in Asia. I don't know anybody in Hong Kong and Japan and so on who I could interview. And I thought, well, you know what? They were so popular in the U.S. that I think that would be an interesting angle to take. Was how kung fu movies, martial arts movies came to the U.S.
So, Chris, you started with horror films, right? You said you got into it that way, and then what I really was loving about the book, I know when Hector and I saw this at Forbidden Planet, you know, this is the era that I grew up in. I was born in '59, Hector 61. I know you're before your time, young generation here.
Yeah, 79 right now.
That's the baby over there.
But what inspired me was that, you know, this is the era I grew up in, the Kung Fu era, the martial art era, the Bruce Lee era, and you guys hit home on all the era of the 70s and 80s. Why did you choose this genre, this era to focus on?
I've always been fascinated by that era and by the martial arts movies, all of the movies of that time period. I mean, there were so many great films, you know, The French Connection, Dirty Harry, The Exorcist, on and on, Jaws.
And classics.
Yeah, I mean, it just the way that there were different genres playing around the country at that time. Like if you went to a drive-in down south, you would find the Walking Tall movies, or the Burt Reynolds, car chase movies. And then, you know, in the cities you had the Kung Fu movies, and you had the soul cinema films with Fred Williamson and Pam Grier, and many others. You know, the horror movies, different types. You have monster movies, and then later the slasher films. So it's something that you don't see now.
Yeah.
There's hardly any sort of theatrical experience, really. I mean, movie theaters have just been downward slide for so long. But you look back at, you know, in the early 70s and even through the 80s, they would build up fronts for the movie theaters in Times Square.
Those were the best. Oh, I remember those, man.
Yeah. It was a cheap. It was a really cheap way to advertise the movie because they had so much foot traffic between Grand Central and Port Authority.
That's correct.
And it only cost a couple $100 to build up those fronts. And in some cases, those movies would open in one theater on 42nd Street. They'd build up this front for a couple $100, and they wouldn't have to do TV advertising. They wouldn't have to do radio
that cheap
spots.
back then?
Yeah, to build up that front was it was like $200 or $300 to do something for like the Green Hornet. When that opened at the New Amsterdam. I mean, I wasn't around for it, but I've seen photos.
The photos,
Yeah, it's a really nice front, and you know, for any of those things. Now
that's the Green Hornet is when they put together the three films right from the Green Hornet, and they called it a major motion picture, right? They tied three together and they called it the Green Hornet.
Yeah, it was
and
like,
I think it came out of The Fury of the Dragon or something.
That was the sequel.
That was the second one.
Yeah, that was the second one.
I didn't know they did that, man.
Yeah. I actually, you saw that back in the day, right?
They actually took Green Hornet episodes. And they put them together and created a 35mm feature film.
Right, an hour and a half film.
Right.
They each about 30 minutes, right?
One of them was the Green Hornet, and the other one Fury of the Dragon.
Did they add their own music to it compared to the episodes, or was it the same music that was playing in the episodes?
You would know they did.
Yeah, it was the same music.
The music,
Right.
Yeah, they used the episodes, right? The actual episodes, and they just put them together because so many people were craving Bruce Lee at that time, and there was nothing else coming out, and they wanted to see more. So somebody who came up with that, to come up with that idea to tie those three together.
It was an 11-year-old boy.
Was it really?
Yeah, named Marco Joachim.
Yes.
His father was a distributor in the New York area who specialized in kiddie matinees. He would rent out a theater for a weekend and rent a movie from a studio, and he would show it over the weekend in 30 theaters in the New York area, 50 theaters. And one weekend he rented the Batman movie.
Okay.
The one with Lee Merriweather.
The feature film.
The shark repellent.
Yes.
And
that was great. That was a fun movie.
It's like in I think early '73, and they did really well with it. It was like right before. It was a weekend right before the Kung Fu craze kicked in. And then, whatever, a few months later, when Bruce Lee died, Marco was a big Kung Fu fan. He loved Bruce Lee. And he said, you know, the producer of the Batman series had another series, The Green Hornet. And that's not on TV. He had seen it a couple of years earlier when he lived in L.A., but it wasn't on in syndication at that time. It wasn't. It was only 1 year.
That was pretty clever of him to come up with that.
And he said, Bruce Lee is so big right now, people want to see the real Bruce Lee. Why don't we make a movie out of that? So his father, Larry, had been a comedian. And his agent at the time was this guy, Maurice Morton, I think was his name. He was now at Fox as an executive. So he just called Maurice Morton and said, you know, can I get a meeting with you about the Green Hornet show? And Fox, their attitude about that show was it was a one-season wonder. It was 7 years earlier.
True.
You know,
who's going to go?
Right. You want to buy the theatrical rights for this one-season wonder? Sure. Why not? Yeah, you can have it.
Wow.
They sold him.
That's simple.
Unbelievable, man.
He got worldwide rights to it.
Oh, wow. I want the worldwide rights to it.
Are you kidding me?
And so they started sending 16mm episodes of the show to Marco, who because at that time it was all on 16mm. They would send it to TV stations, and he watched all the episodes and took notes, and then he edited together.
Came up with the 3 episodes that he chose, right?
Well, it was the first movie was it was actually 4 episodes because it was a 2-parter.
Okay.
So it was 2 and then a 2-parter. And then they watched what he had edited together, and they realized, well, there aren't enough fight scenes, but people are going to want to see more. So they just started throwing in fights from other episodes. Like 7 or 8 different episodes they were throwing in, and so it's it's a jumble, and
it's
then
a mishmash of everything.
It's a mix of, like from episode 1 all the way to episode 24.
So they just started putting in more. Yeah, because he didn't really do that many fight scenes on the episodes.
Yeah.
No.
You watch them and you're waiting for that, and then, oh, there comes one, and there's another. So he put them together. Oh, it's very, very smart of him.
What I enjoyed was the Praying Mantis.
That was a great episode.
Which is like, the preferred episode of all the Bruce Lee fans. Because the Praying Mantis was specially written for Bruce Lee. So to see the Praying Mantis on the big screen was like seeing Bruce Lee in a Chinese movie.
Right.
Yeah. Because everything was, it was all American. But the Praying Mantis dealt in Chinatown.
Yeah.
With the Golden Dragon and all these things. So yeah, that was my personal favorite. And of course the two-parter with the when they meet Batman.
The crossover series,
the crossover.
Yeah.
Were these films restored, these episodes?
They were originally shot in 35 millimeter,
Right.
And then they were available for home viewing in 16 millimeter, which is what Joachim received on 16.
Right.
And then they acquired, I believe, the 35 millimeter prints. They mixed them together, and then they created the Green Hornet and then Fury of the Dragon, 2 feature films. So that's why we got to see. I mean, when you see the episodes on TV, they were dark
and grainy.
Right.
Yeah, you didn't really get good quality.
How could you blow that up
Right.
onto the big screen? You're going to lose a lot of quality. But they got the 35 millimeter.
And I don't think the episodes or those films came out on Blu-ray at this point. I've never seen them on Blu-ray. I'm yet to see a really great quality copy of those. Those movies that came out back then.
I mean, it took years for the Batman series to come out on Blu-ray.
Right.
You know why? Because you got to understand, the Green Hornet is owned by Greenway Productions. Then you've got 20th Century Fox, and then you've got Golden Harvest, who has the rights to the Bruce Lee likeness.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people you got to deal with.
So it's complicated.
Yeah.
For everybody to come to an agreement and release them on Blu-ray.
So Chris, I have another question. In this book, you have a lot of great movie posters of all the films, from back in the day, from the Angela Mao films, Jim Kelly, Look Deadly China. Where did you get the material to place in the book? Because it's a very great book. Not only do you read, but it's a picture book of all the memorabilia that you used to see back in the 70s and 80s. So where did most of the memorabilia come from at that point?
Well, most of the posters are mine, and then then I would get other images, like some of them we licensed from. Like posters I didn't have, like for example the Ron Van Cleef movies, like the Black Dragon. I have the Black Dragon, but I didn't have the. There were a couple of them that Neil Adams did the artwork for.
Okay.
Like the Death of Bruce Lee was one of them.
Yeah.
We didn't. I didn't have that poster, so we licensed that from Seraphim Karalexis, who was the producer and distributor of the movie. So we got a few from him. There was another one, Ninja Warriors. Which was Ninja in the Dragon's Den, I think is the movie, with
Sonny
Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yes.
Oh, that's the Koryu film. That's his debut film.
Yeah.
That's directed.
Yeah.
That's a great film.
Conan Lee, right?
Conan Lee, yes.
Seraphim had released that in the U.S. as Ninja Warrior. So
Ninja Warriors, yep.
So we licensed that poster.
Amazing theme song.
Yeah. I got that on Blu-ray.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I got that on Blu-ray. It's actually a double. It's The Killing Machine and Ninja in the Dragon's Den.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Killing Machine's great.
Oh, that's my favorite Sonny Chiba film.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about the book that I remember back in the 70s, I think in 74, was Cinema of Vengeance.
Oh!
Which was the black book with Bruce on the cover, and I remember as a kid, I was 15, and I saw that book in Barnes & Noble.
Love that book.
Must have bought like 5 copies.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of this book. To some degree, because again, it was all the movie posters, and it was that era at the time. And were you inspired by that book at all, or did that have something to do with producing this book?
Yes, I still have my copy of that. I have the hardcover.
Oh, you do also? I have the hardcover too, and the soft cover, right?
Of course.
You know what I noticed about this cover? It reminds me of the newspaper ads when they used to run for Channel 5 at the drive-in.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like the way it looks, the font, and then the white right
Yes.
here, and the artwork. So I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Yeah,
the newspaper ads, right?
Right.
This right here we took from Fist of Vengeance is the name of the movie. That's what it was called in the U.S. I'm forgetting what the actual title is, but it was it was one of the ones that played on Saturday afternoons because
Gotcha.
I saw it.
So it makes
under
sense
that
because
title.
those ads for Channel 5, they show like Five Deadly Venoms on there,
Right,
or Avengers,
right.
and always had this type of like pow thing, like
Yeah,
old
yeah.
Batman.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we wanted to go for the comic book look also. With a lot of starbursts, because you always see starbursts on the posters.
Yeah.
You flip through. The graphic designer we worked with went through a lot of the posters and the ad mats and comic book ads.
Yeah.
We sent him a lot of this stuff ahead of time and said, you know, we want to go with like the yellow and black because it reminds everybody of
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think so.
Beautiful,
and we want a lot of starbursts, and he was the one who suggested, well, since it's called These Fists Break Bricks, I'm going to pull the font from the Fist of Vengeance poster. So, okay, great idea. And but there's like such a connection between comic books and martial arts.
There really is. Yeah,
of course.
Like I just mentioned,
right?
you know, Neil Adams did so many of the posters, and then other Luis Dominguez, who is a big, mostly cover artist for comic books. He did a lot of the Jonah Hex and a lot of the Haunted House comic books in the 70s. He did a ton of the movie posters. A lot that are in the book. Ken Barr was another comic book artist. There's a big, and a lot of the comic book artists were influenced by the kung fu movies and the samurai movies and karate movies of the 70s, because at the time there weren't superhero movies.
Right.
So this is the closest to superheroes.
As you always say, Hector, right?
You always say, a good example of that is, I just reviewed this film recently, is Zoo Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
Like the special effects in that film is stuff that you see now.
Which one did you review? The original?
The 1983 one, the Suhark one.
That's the best.
Yeah, that's the one where they actually got the co-founder of Industrial Light and Magic.
Yes.
Given the tools to do the special effects.
To do the special effects.
And it came out the same year as Return of the Jedi. So imagine Hong Kong cinema with the same tools of Star Wars.
Wow.
You get one amazing looking film that's still to this day.
100%.
Nice.
I always say, you know, that there's a comparison between cartoons and martial arts films, because it is. I mean, it's really funny, but you can walk into a room and somebody's watching a cartoon. You don't have to look at the screen to know that it's a cartoon by the way they're talking. Same thing when you walk into a room, somebody could be watching a kung fu film, and by the dubbing, you know they're watching a kung fu film. Because it's not real. They don't sound like real people. They sound like characters.
That's a good point.
So the comparison between cartoon and kung fu films, it's very close.
Now, how did you guys choose the movies that you wanted to feature in here? Because you didn't feature everyone. I mean, there was so much to pick from, and you guys really had good selections of Norris and Kelly, Jim Kelly, and you used the black exploitation films. You did some Bruce Lee, but not overdone with Bruce Lee. How'd you kind of balance out all the action stars that you wanted to kind of highlight at the time? Who chose that? How did that come about?
Well, it really came about through us wanting to tell a story rather than just do movie reviews.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of times, if we pick up a book and start looking through it, it's like an alphabetical listing of movies with reviews. It's an encyclopedia of film. We didn't really want to do that. We wanted to tell the story, and that's really when Grady decided to jump on board with this. Because I was influenced by his book, Paperbacks from Hell, and also there were a couple of books that influenced me. It was that one, and then like outside of the kung fu genre, because the Rick Myers book and then the Cinema of Vengeance were definitely influences on me. But Grady's book, Paperbacks from Hell, because it tells a story about those 70s and early 80s, those really cheesy horror novels with the covers with the hole and I forget what the technical term is for those, but yeah, he did that. And then there was a book on hip hop, the history of hip hop, called I'm forgetting the title of it now, but it was a big bestseller. And then also a friend of mine wrote a book called Ad Nauseam, which was all the like movie ads of the 70s and 80s horror movies. Yeah, he clipped them, and he did another one on science fiction. But my problem with that book was it was all black and white because of the format. It's newspaper ads. So I said, well, if I have a lot of newspaper ads also, if I can combine that.
Don't we all?
Yeah. I collect them too.
Hector's done episodes on just newspaper ads.
Just newspaper ads. But what Chris is saying is true. Most of them were just 2 colors. But once in a while, they would, like Golden Needles. I've got the newspaper ad for Golden Needles, and they did it in gold.
Oh, cool.
So they actually did like a golden border. And also,
and they used red a lot too in some of the. I have some newspapers.
I have an Enter the Dragon
one where they have it in red, but it's a newspaper ad, and they add a little color to it.
Yes, I mean those are rarities.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's actually
black and white.
And that's the connection with comic books too, because that's the look it had.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed,
You know?
yes. Those were our first collectibles.
Right.
Because no Bruce Lee magazines existed, no posters. So back in the days, I'd buy the newspapers, clip them, and do a scrapbook.
Yeah,
So for
nice,
many,
nice.
they were our first collectible.
I noticed you mentioned hip hop, and I had to mention it for the folks here.
Yeah.
We got a forward by the RZA right here, man.
Oh, the
Look.
RZA, yes.
Yeah, so again, the RZA was like to me very influential growing up because I'm the young one here. You know? And
Don't push it, Frankie. Don't push it.
so you know, a lot of movies got exposed to me through his music. So how is it being, you know, in contact with the RZA?
Oh, well, I met him at Fantastic Fest and thanked him for the forward because it's a really great forward. And I found out he told me that he spoke it into his phone and then just sent the transcription to Tim League from the Alamo Draft House. And we were online. We had a Zoom meeting, Grady, Tim, and I, and we were going over the layout for the book. And ding! Yeah, Tim gets a text message, and he's like, "Oh, it's from RZA.
Wow,
that's the foreword for the book." And so we took it off his phone and took a look at it, and it's like, "Wow, there's really no editing that needs to be done." We thought he was texting.
Yeah.
And then I talked to him a few months later. He said, "Oh no, I just spoke it into my phone." And like really, the only change we made to it was while he was talking, he referenced My Young Auntie. And he forgot Cara Hoy's name. So he said, "Oh, when what's her name? Look up her name. When she's fighting." So that's the only thing we had to really change.
It's funny. I mentioned that to you earlier in the car where I used to be like, "Yeah, that's the Venom guy, the blue guy." You know, I forget the name sometimes.
Yeah.
That's funny. So, and anything else you want to tell us about this magnificent book, and where people? How's it doing, by the way? Where can people pick it up and stuff?
It's in most Barnes and Nobles.
Oh, it is.
Amazon. If you can ask your public library to buy a copy. I'm a librarian myself, so I always tell people, if you're not sure, if you're not that into martial arts movies, but you're kung fu curious or whatever, you're a big Grady Hendrix fan, but you're not so sure you like martial arts. Just ask your public library to buy a copy, and I mean you're paying taxes anyway.
Absolutely. I'll include a link to the book in the description of this video. I did that when we did the Forbidden Planet, and a lot of the collectors of the show, because I have almost 11,000 subscribers now, and they just love anything.
Amazing, man.
Bruce Lee,
good for you, Charles.
martial arts and this era. So I'll put a link, and we'll direct them to pick it up, because I know Amazon's big at carrying this as well. And people could order it right from Amazon as well. So what's the next project for you? We were talking in the car earlier, driving here, and you were saying you have another idea.
I have the first book I wrote, which will be the second one to come out next year. There's a book on the Warriors.
Oh, I love that film.
Get ready.
Yeah.
Can you dig it?
I'm out to play. That'll be out next year.
Nice.
But the next one that I'm writing right now is on Japanese films.
Oh,
great!
I love it.
So
Yes.
Karate, samurai, ninja.
Absolutely.
Got you. Nice.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned something that you wanted to do something with DVD and do something with video, and you had a kind of cool idea on that.
Yeah. I'd like to do a series of martial arts movies, and I'm talking with a company now about possibly doing that and getting fans to do the audio commentaries.
Nice.
Because I think there are too few big fans who are out there doing the commentaries. It's almost like
it's right up your alley.
Said, they're gatekeepers.
Yeah, there's gatekeepers out there, and we need more. There's a lot of passionate folks out there, and they have a different voice, especially people of color. Because this movie's for us being I'm Dominican. You're Puerto Rican, and we grew up with these films.
Yeah, that's right.
Same with our black neighbors and everything. This was our films, and we have a different perspective to contribute to the genre.
Absolutely.
So
I got 2 questions for the guys. Chris, what is your favorite, all-time favorite kung fu film, if you do have one?
Well, I have a couple that I watched.
Couple, yeah. Of course.
It's always hard to narrow it down to one.
It's like a potato chip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it can change at any time, but
Correct.
Okay, top three.
Well, I love Master of the Flying Guillotine.
Okay.
that's a good
Okay.
one.
That's a big one.
Yes. Jimmy Wen Yu.
As far as American movies, I really like Death Promise.
Van Damme?
No, it's Charles Bonnet and
Oh, Charlie Bonnet.
That's
Oh,
the one
come
that
on,
Andy
of
Silva
course.
released recently.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good movie.
It's about that, yeah.
Yeah.
it's so much fun. And,
Yeah.
And I mean, you knew Charlie.
Charlie was a good friend of mine, yes.
Yeah.
And he did that I think it was the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
Based on
City,
Alphabet City, based on some kind of apartment building where they had slumlords and gangsters and all that good stuff. So really, Death Promise?
Like I said, I go through phases.
I never thought you'd come out with something
I
like that.
go through phases. Yeah, I just watched it again recently because Grady and I did an episode of a podcast called Punches and Popcorn. And
Great line.
they asked us. It's a fairly new podcast. And
Surprising.
Right?
Wow, you
Punches
just got
and
me off
Popcorn.
left field, man.
they were at one of our shows. We did a show in Syracuse a month or two back, and they came to us and said, "We just started this podcast. We're on our second or third episode. Would you like to be guests? And any topic you want to talk about?" And you know, Grady interviewed Charlie for the book, and shortly before he passed away, and I know Seraphim really well, and I said, we should talk about Ron Van Cleef and Charlie, and those movies that they made. That we could do Black Dragon, Black Dragon's Revenge,
Of course.
Death Promise, and The Super Weapon,
The Super Weapon, one of the
which is great.
the first documentary on martial arts. It's
Wow.
just an amazing
Nice.
idea.
Wow, I never heard of it. This is the
Really
first for
good.
me.
I have
Super
never heard
Weapon,
that
yeah.
one.
It's a great opportunity to see a lot of the New York martial artists,
Yeah,
like Frank Ruiz.
Frank Ruiz, may he
and-
rest in peace. Yeah. Moses Powell.
Yep.
I'm familiar with Moses, growing up in Harlem. Like,
Yeah. Okay, so your favorite was again?
Oh, okay. Well, Master of the Flying Guillotine.
Master of the Flying Guillotine.
At the moment, Death Promise
Promise.
is a big one.
And what's your third?
So we have probably Dance of Death.
Dance of Death, great.
Yeah,
I just
Angela
picked up
Mao.
that poster a week ago.
Yeah, it's such a nice poster.
I'm
we
forgetting
ran
that.
we ran that at Fantastic Fest in September, and we warned everybody beforehand. We said the humor is really low.
Yes.
It's lots of fart jokes and everything, but it's the fighting is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Angela's terrific.
Jackie Chan did the choreography.
Yes, he did.
She is terrific.
Yeah.
She's basically playing Jackie Chan.
Wow. She discovered Jackie Chan.
Stay tuned for part 2 with Chris Poggiali, co-author of the book These Fists Break Bricks, where we continue with our discussion of the 70s and 80s martial arts movies highlighted in the book, as well as our surprise guest visit from JKD instructor and Bruce Lee collector Sifu Richard Torres and his friend James Tierbeck, top Bruce Lee collector from the Netherlands, and much more. Coming soon.